And let's just make sure. Hello, there we go. We're on screen. Hello, right, everybody. This is the Convention Survival Guide panel. It's going to be a little bit of a sort of looser version this time than it was last time because, as you may have noticed, we haven't got any conventions going on at the moment in real life, and this is more based on those. It's a lot easier when you're sitting in your pajamas, and you can get everybody to bring you food from Uber. But yeah, essentially, I've got Sky with me, Sky Spectre, and between the two of us, we go to quite a lot of panels. So yeah, we've picked up quite a lot over the time that we've been going, and essentially just trying to share it to make sure you get the best out of your conventions when you go. I've had a couple of contributions from other people as well. Stormblaze helped me with the vendor section, and I had Ashi, another friend of mine, who helped with the cosplay section. So it's a bit of a cobbled together out of lots of different experiences. So yeah, we're going the contents. Important things are always planning. Day before the con, there's always a lot of stuff to prepare, stuff to do at the convention and with cosplay and vendors. Sky's got a section about accessibility, so what to do when you've got when you've got things that make it more difficult, keeping track of your mental health, that kind of thing, which is always super important. And then yeah, what to do with the post-con blues and the aftermath. So yeah, there's a lot missed out in this, and like I say, it'll be looser than last time. But one of the big things that's missed out from this being particularly about the sort of the really core stuff, as in what I could fit into an hour panel rather than about 3 hours. Yeah, one of the big things missing though is advice for when you're actually traveling, which nobody is at the moment, so that's not such a problem. But when we do get back to normality and everyone can go traveling around the world, there's a lot of advice you can get on that, and it's worth looking into. And I'm planning on doing a second part of this panel at some point, if anyone will let me. That goes into stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully keep an eye on this space. And I'm also doing cheesy things about friendship is magic throughout the panel because it's Pony. So yeah, so keep an eye out for that, and yes, maximum levels of cheese. Sky's going to be keeping an eye for me on the Discord as well, so if you want to chat about that, I will keep it on my phone. But yes, lovely. Here we go, yes. And so to start off with planning, planning still applies to online cons to a certain extent, a little less so because you can sort of, as long as you just get yourself the time off, you can see a lot of stuff. But it is worth planning if you want to try and make it feel like a proper con. It's worth sort of planning to have the time off to really commit to seeing as many panels as you can, because it just makes it so much fun. And always come and see mine. Shameless self plugs. But yeah, you always want to make sure you check the details, because if you double check everything, that can resolve a lot of problems that crop up. There's always still going to be a lot of problems cropping up when you're planning conventions, when you're going to conventions. But the more you've checked beforehand, the fewer problems, and the easier it is to deal with them when they come up. Things like double rooms versus twin rooms, details like that. You have to know the difference, unless you're very, very familiar with the person you're going to be sleeping in the same bed as. Yeah, sightseeing, again, when reality returns, it's a really good way of seeing a country you haven't seen before if you're going abroad. Plan yourself another couple of days to go and see stuff there. Usually works best to sightsee before the con, because then the con is a nice sort of end point to it, and it's cons are always tiring, and it's nice to go home and sleep afterwards. Accommodation, again, that's kind of, that's more into the detail of just general travel advice, but it's definitely it's something you've got to plan in advance. Make sure the key things, you got to be the travel, you got to be able to get there, you got to have somewhere to stay, you got to have tickets for the con. You've also got to be able to find places to eat, but usually there's always those around the place. But also, and yeah, my friendship is magic cheese. is essentially the fact that when you're planning, having other people going with you, if you can plan to go as a group, prices will be cheaper. You have a lot more fun when planning as a group. Somebody else, whoever else is you're planning with can pick up things that you miss. You can all have a little look around at places you want to see, all that sort of stuff. And going as a group to a convention is so much fun if you can. If you haven't got a group to go with, ask around social media, places like UKBP, social, con sites, all sorts. You can talk to people and find people who might be going to conventions. And if you can't find them before, you can usually find someone there to go with next time. Yeah, before you go, so once you've actually got there though, and again, that was a relatively cut down version because at the moment we're not planning a lot, but yeah, sadly. But once you get to the convention, or once you get to your hotel, essentially, there's a lot that you can do on the day before the con that really helps make the con itself a lot better. And a lot of that is general travel advice, things like what to take with you on a plane, or or on a bus, or just things to have in your bag. Entertainment, water, always water. Being prepared for stuff. No plans of eye contact with the enemy. That's a very important thing, and it's a very important thing to do with the preparation and attitude. Because especially when the further away you go, if you're traveling abroad, whether you're traveling within the country, things go wrong. There'll be traffic jams if you're driving to a con, delayed trains, or planes take ages to take off. You miss connecting flights, for example. When we flew into Baltimore last year for PonyCon, we stayed a little bit too long in JFK Airport where we were having lunch and missed our connecting flight. So yeah, you have to, if you go into it with the right attitude, you stress about the problem for a little bit, but only so long as it's helpful. So if you focus that stress then on just finding a solution, which in our case was getting a hire car and driving 4 hours through about 4 states from New York to Baltimore in what turned out to be a Dodge Charger, which was good fun. But essentially the people at the hire car place felt sympathetic to us, so gave us a nice car. But yeah, the important point of that though is that if you're prepared for it, then when something goes wrong, there's fewer gaps. And if you go into it with a positive attitude and try and sort of get a handle on when things go wrong, you get stressed, but think about whether that stress is helpful. And if it's not, try and at least put it off till later, because you can use that energy to actually solve the problem. But yeah, assuming you've arrived, and actually before you arrive, making sure you pack well. That was something that was brought up earlier today, actually, and some people were talking about cons. Comfy shoes, incredibly important. You're going to spend a lot of time the next day and during the traveling day walking around. So get yourself good footwear, comfy clothes. If it can have ponies on it, that's always good. But ultimately, if you've got your favorite pony thing, but it's really uncomfortable, save that for wearing at the big panels, wearing where your friends are. Bring something else to wear for the comfort purposes. And you make sure you bring all your con badges and swag and things you want to show off, toiletries, towels, the usual, but packing in advance is very important to make sure that you've got everything you need when you get there. And when you do get there, get settled before you go out, if possible. Sometimes you'll be in a real rush and you need to get a meal first, or you'll need to just go straight in. But ideally, it's best to get there first. Get to the con the day before, settle into your hotel, make your nest, get yourself comfortable, then go out, have a decent meal, because over the con weekend, you're just going to be grabbing Subway or McDonald's, whatever you can get in 5 minutes between panels. And if you can find a pre-con meetup, they are the best fun. It's usually in a pub or a there's some gaming venues. I think we had some meets up in Nottingham a couple of times. Find people to hang out with, chat pony nice and early. You build the hype, it gets the excitement going. You make new friends. Friendship is magic, which is slightly hidden, I think, by my face or one of our faces. Oh no, our faces are at the top. That's good. Yeah, the friendship is magic, though. I mean, one of my favorite things was the first PonyCon I went to was Buck 2014. I'd only ever been to MTM before that, generic conventions, but got into the hostel in Manchester, and as soon as I was unpacked and went down to the common area, you can spot bronies. We're fairly easy to spot by the plushies and the colourful ponies. Go and talk to them. There's very few of us who will flat out refuse to talk to someone who wants to find a new friend. If you're on your own, it's the best way to just meet people. You can essentially just wave a plushie at them and start mingling. So yeah, the most important thing though on any convention weekend is 621, which is not the 621 that was mentioned earlier in our Luicious chat. 621 is 6 hours of sleep every day of the convention, 2 decent meals, and 1 shower. The shower is, even if you don't think you need it, you do. And it's not for your benefit necessarily. But yeah, obviously getting sleep makes everything more pleasant. You have a much more fun time. You don't end up grouchy. And that's the other side of trying to make sure you have as much fun as possible while avoiding getting grouchy because of lack of sleep, because of getting hungry and thirsty and overdoing things. There's all these things that can spoil your fun. So yeah, 621 is your most basic. Stick to that and you're off to a really good start. And the comfortable clothing, I think, from preparation purposes, that, combined with that, and there's not too much that can spoil it. You plan your day. So yeah, 61. Oh, I did graphics. I forgot about that. Ha. So yeah, if you plan your day beforehand, as soon as you've got the con schedule in particular, that's the best way to do it. Is once you get the con schedule, you circle any panels you want to go to, cross out any panels you're not so interested in, and crossing out is actually pretty useful because it helps sort of visualize that schedule in terms of what you can and can't go to. But don't try and plan to do everything. And that's the don't overdo it point on the other side of the page. Because while it's a nice idea to be able to go to every single panel, realistically, you try and do that, you'll be exhausted. Which is slightly different with online cons though, because it's one of the nice things is that I can see a lot more panels now than I normally am able to. Because I don't have to do anything in between. I'm just, I still sat in my chair. And if I want food, Uber Eats. But yes, and you also want to make sure you plan in breaks. Whether that's an hour-long break sometime, whether that's just literally making sure you think about having 5 minutes just sitting down somewhere, Exy, because you end up just doing so much. And if you don't genuinely plan for yourself to take some time out, it can be very easy just to end up bouncing from wall to wall. But yes, and come prepared. What I call a con preparedness bag, because I can't think of a better term. But it's always worth having a bag with you, whether it's a shoulder bag, backpack, whatever is your preferred thing. Also, it's useful having a bag with other bags in, because if you've got a small shoulder bag, but you might end up getting shopping or plushies, swag, all sorts. So yeah, come prepared. Bring yourself an extra little bag. Bring all your pony swag to show off to everyone. Bring battery packs though are a godsend, because if you're sat there trying to constantly taking photos on your phone and looking up pony things, doing PayPal, often you use your phone for PayPal in vendor halls. Having a battery pack's useful, but also you can, if you get hot, a neat little trick I picked up is buy a USB powered electric fan and plug it into a battery pack. It's a really nice way to keep yourself cool without having to kind of wave a fan at your face all the time. Also, yeah, an art folder. I use those sort of plastic folders with the popper on the front to put my art in. I use it for, I bring a reference sheet so that I can just hand it to artists if I'd like them to do a commission. But it's also useful for when you get the commission, you put it in there, or a poster tube if you've got bigger art to buy. What else? Oh, deodorant, yes. And possibly a towel. I always bring a towel because I sweat a lot. But, you know, at least deodorant is a good thing. Keep yourself, you know, keep everybody happy.
And a bottle of water as well.
Yes, bottle of water. Very important. Hydration, because it's so easy to forget about that. And that's the easiest way to get yourself a really bad headache. We are 60% water, although I looked it up, ponies apparently are only 50%. But yeah, that's another one. Avoid getting grouchy. Water with you at all times, whether it's your fancy pony bottle from Asda or what have you, or just a little disposable. But yeah, make yourself comfortable. We already kind of mentioned that. If you've packed what you need, if you've got comfortable shoes, definitely lots of walking around. I used to just buy rubbish shoes because I didn't realize how much difference it makes. But yeah, seriously worth it. Unless you have a particular reason, don't go heels. Not that I've tried. But also, you know, those small, flat, thin-soled shoes, unless you're a very skinny, light person, are unlikely to give you enough foot support. And then in terms of attitude, just, yeah, friendship is magic. Respect is key. Consent is key. It's one of the most important things when you're dealing with anyone at a convention. We're a diverse lot. We have a lot of people with different backgrounds, sexualities, all these things.
And beliefs and ideas of our lives.
Yeah. And everybody has so much. And the point of this fandom is that it's accepting of everyone. So you want to be that kind of attitude. And if you do that, then everybody gets on really well. If you start sort of being a bit careless and people get offended, and it's a really easy way to spoil things. Also, respect yourself. You know, not just treating other people with respect, but yeah, if you look after yourself, don't try and push yourself too far, Bexy. But you know, it's just so important. And on the other side, you know, the don't do's. A lot of these are kind of just reflections of what you should do, but don't behave inappropriately. Don't mess things up for everyone. Anything NSFW, keep it to yourself or to people that you know are into it in an area that you know they're into it. Like those ahegao faces, just no, don't wear those t-shirts. Otherwise, I will kick you out if the staff don't. You know, don't overdo it. Don't, try to do literally everything. And it's, mentally and physically overdoing it. Taking breaks really helps with that. Don't overburden yourself. Yeah, if you're buying a whole load of stuff, or you've brought a whole load of stuff, or in my case, you have every single Series 1 dog tag, yeah, take them off every now and then. Put them down, go back to the hotel and drop stuff off if you need to.
And also, always ask permission to take photos of cosplayers, because permission is always needed.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's covered in the cosplay section as well, but it's under that sort of respect and behavior point.
It came with a couple of questions. I just want to point it out.
Yeah. Oh no, that's what I'm. Yeah, it's very much under that heading of respect, and that you're right. Don't overspend. I mean, buy stuff definitely, support the vendors, but just be careful to keep an eye on realistically how much you have, because you don't want to get home at the end of the convention and not be able to eat meat for a month or not pay your rent. You know, you need to balance lots of amazing pony things with life and adulting. So just be careful. And don't, Sky, overload on sugar.
Yes, and budget for food so you can eat and drink. So you get enough money to buy you food, be comfortable, buy some merch, and get a bus back to hotel.
Yes. Yes, but you're not deflecting me from what I was going to say, Sky. No
Yes.
sugar crashes.
The sugar crashes.
Although I'm also guilty of this. Yeah, it's so easy to just eat junk food, nothing but just junk food, and you know, sugar comes with a price. It might boost you for a bit, but if you don't eat proper food from time to time, and if you eat even if you do and still then eat too much sugar, you'll end up crashing and feeling horrible. I did the same thing. I when we were at PonyCon 19, and there was that Wild Bill soda. It was sort of independently made, so I sort of somehow thought that meant no sugar crash. And there I am, sort of saying to Sky, "Oh no, you got to be careful. Don't drink too much sugar. You know, American drinks have got so much sugar." And I did exactly that. So yeah, do what I do, don't do what I say. No, do what I say, don't do what I do. That one. And don't forget to look after yourself. You know, it's covered by everything. If you're doing the do's and not doing the don'ts, that should be covered. But oh yeah, more graphics. Yeah, it is very important though, just not only to get hyped up about the con, but also to consider your health, your well-being, mental, physical. Take breaks. You know, don't let it just suddenly overwhelm you. Yeah. And oh yeah, at the gala cosplay, as pointed out, yes, asking for permission, not forgiveness. That's on the attendee section. If you're you know, talking to cosplayers, you know, if you want to hug them, take photos of them, what have you, it's most important to ask for permission first. You don't just assume it, because they might be stopping for lunch, they might be hot and sweaty and needing a break. They might not be comfortable with people hugging them. So you know, just be nice, be polite and respectful. And tag their page if you're taking photos. If you're taking photos and uploading them later, find out what their cosplay page is and tag them, because they love to see this stuff too. I might as well. I'm going to do this panel, this slide in reverse. Hug with care. Yes, that's important. There's lots of intricate and delicate breakable bits on cosplays. If you break someone's cosplay, they're not going to be happy with you. And you know, ask before touching. And if you're trying to get people to do poses, don't ask them to do something that's not possible. It may be the costume's not possible. The person under the cosplay may not be an athlete, a gymnast who can actually do the splits, things like that. And don't take it personally, or don't get offended if people say no to you in cosplay to do photos and poses and that. It's up to them, and ultimately it's a matter of their choice, not yours. But you know, if you're nice about it, if you're understanding about it, they will likely be as helpful as they can be, because everybody, you know, cosplayers like the attention. You know, they are there to, you know, show off their skills, and they enjoy knowing that people appreciate it. It's the whole point. And respecting personal space is that whole thing as well. And it's not just physically, it's socially. If you've met a cosplayer at a con, don't assume you're going to be instantly their best friend. Don't pester them, creep and fawn over them. They're humans. Be like, your cosplay is amazing. Respect the cosplay for what it is. Not, you know, don't just tell them, oh, you look fit. It's like, no, that's a really good cosplay. I think you did really well with this feature or whatever. And you know, if they want to make friends, they'll make friends. But if you're creepy about it, they're not going to want to. As a cosplayer, let me see my notes. I haven't done a huge amount of this myself, so I'm relying on advice from other people. But it's important. It's good to have an essentials kit with you for anything to fix things up. Cool yourself down. Needle, thread, glue, safety pins. Apparently, fursuiters, it's worth bringing brushes, cleaning sprays, and a change of Under Armour. So, yeah, I imagine it gets pretty hot in there. And if you can get somebody with you as a handler or a buddy, and this applies to vendors as well, somebody to look after you, to help get you food, to help clear a path. Make sure, and with clearing paths, make sure you've tested your cosplay, you know what sort of spaces it can go through if you've got wings sticking out, and make sure you're not going to be trampling children, all these sorts of things. Oh, and the weather's important. If you know it's going to be hot, the logistics of your costume. If it's going to be too hot for you to wear a fursuit all day, plan for it. Make sure you know your limits. Make sure you know what you can and can't do. And yeah, friendship is magic. You can, if you bring a friend to help you out with your cosplay, if you make friends with people who do cosplays, and I've found often making friends with people who do cosplays is a good way to make you think you really want to do cosplays. I wish I could do more. And the vendors, which thanks to Stormblaze for this one, this section. Food and drink. A lot of it's similar, a lot of the advice is similar for just anybody who's going to a con, but it becomes more important if you're vending and you don't have an opportunity to go out and get food and drink. Bring someone with you who can come with you, or who can go and get food for you. And cash card and PayPal, making sure if you are vending that you've got access to as many of those as you can. I think card readers are pretty cheap now, but also PayPal. And this is as an attendee, I've often found that even if you don't have the cash, they don't have a card reader, but you can often convince that you can talk to them and say, look, do you have a PayPal? I've got the app on my phone. So it's a good way of being able to pay for it. But on the other hand, be careful when you're playing with PayPal that you don't end up spending money that you shouldn't. Spatial awareness blocking, as in similar thing to the cosplay. If you've got big cosplay and getting in people's way, but also if you're at a vendor stall and you're chatting with a vendor, try not to block their stall, because you want to, if you're not there to buy, or if you're there to just browse but not necessarily buy, please make sure other people can look as well. Because I think one of the worst things that some of the vendors get is where they are talking to someone and they can see a queue of people in the background that then just goes away because they've waited too long. Everybody wants to have a chance to look, and the vendors ultimately are there to earn a living. So they love to chat with you, but not if you're kind of getting in the way of their livelihood. Depending on the stool, ask before touching. If I know that Bexley's been, and a lot of people have been missing the ability to rummage through tubs of earlier gen ponies, and that's all well and good. But a stool like Stormblazers with custom artwork and things, if you're sticking your greasy fingers all over it, it can end up damaging the goods. So at least ask. If it's an obvious, if it's a big lucky dip tub of things, you're probably all right, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Behavior and attitude, as with all things, be nice to everyone. If you don't have anything nice to say, please don't say anything. If you look at someone's artwork and you think it looks like a child drew it, then that's very mean of you. And and if you decide to say something, that's just uncalled for. It's a case of people are putting their heart and soul into this. Not an art is a very subjective thing. There's a lot of stuff that might look childish to one person, but actually it's very artistic. It's a particular style choice, that sort of thing. You know, there's no need to say anything if you don't like something. You can always just move on. But if somebody's gone to all this effort to get it sorted, yeah, don't go saying mean things about them. And be patient. If there's somebody else is blocking, or you can't get to the stool, or the card reader's being slow, vendors will do everything they can. They're there to earn a living. They want to be able to sell their goods because it's also a big morale boost, really, to see that people are keen to buy what they've created. But so yeah, be patient and they'll get around to it. What else do they have? So, oh yes, the accessibility bit. Sky, do you want to?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's if you're looking after somebody or you're buddy with somebody, please be patient with them. Listen to them. Back them up if they need your help. We will say, like, if you need a break or if you need to sit down or you need to take you need 5 minutes or to take a out to mellow out or you need a drink. It's great to have that fresh air. And watch out for others. If you see someone who might, so he sees someone who might be sort of having trouble, go and ask them so you can help them with something. It's great. Someone saw me struggling and they're like, yeah, I like that. I know they did it. I'll say, thank you so much. I'm all right. But it's that nice watching out for each other.
Yep.
And
yeah, I mean, and it's not just a case of sort of if you are sort of that applies if you're with someone who's got issues with with various things. This sort of stuff applies not just to it applies to things like mental health, to physical health, to any sort of things that provide that add extra sort of difficulty to attending a con. You've got to be patient. There's going to be unhelpful people.
Yes.
The only way to deal with them is just sort of be patient until they go away. But available support. A lot of cons have things that will help you out with.
Quiet spaces. They have rooms where you can sit down quite often, so you can have quiet.
And also, nearly lost the screen. There's also things like the accessibility badges at places like PonyCon, which was a massive help because it was a very stressful convention. But conventions recognise that people are here with limitations, and that is able to help to get people through. Have a quiet queue, have a little bit early access, just so that you don't have to stand in the queue if you're physically going to find that problematic, that sort of thing. And knowing your limits is important to everyone, but is extra important if you're if you've got extra difficulties. And taking breaks, just not only for your physical health, but also also just to calm your mind for a sec.
It is now, and these days there's a sunflower neck thing. What is it's for people who it shows they got a disability who don't show it, and people wear it. So if they look like they're in trouble, it detect that you can help them, and it's used in all industries now. So and it's free to get from any supermarket or shop.
Yeah. And also for anybody who has any form of medication that really affects them. Don't skip your meds. Make sure you've got them on alarms.
Please don't take medication because once you stop it, it gets very hard to back in it again.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing that is very easy to forget under these sorts of circumstances because you're having a wonderful time. You don't think you necessarily need it until you do, and then it might be too late. And also make sure your friends know especially if there's any like critical medications that are going to have a really big effect. Just let your friends know. Maybe put a little card in your wallet with instructions if it comes to it. But friendship is magic point on this is that your friends are your best allies with any sort of mental health. make sure whoever you're going to cons with understands your position, and that that everybody knows what to expect. Like, how much do you want your friends to help you out? How much are you willing to help out your friends with difficulties, so that nobody ends up doing anything they're uncomfortable with? But ultimately, if you work as a team, you end up having a much better time.
Yeah, and your friends and the people you meet will make it a brilliant time. You may have struggles, you may get a bit frustrating, but the people you meet will make the whole time so much better, and you'll forget about the bad times. Last year's PonyCon, I met the greatest people I ever met, had the greatest fun, and with all the disasters, I remember the good stuff.
Exactly, and that's the biggest key, for all of these aspects about friendship is magic with conventions, because there have been all sorts going wrong. There's, things get very stressful, and if you can end up remembering just the bad stuff, but with a good group of friends, what you really remember, in all honesty, not just being completely cheesy, but what you do remember is the fun, is just the times you had. And BronyCon at 19 was not a particularly well organized convention. And there were times where we just ended up leaving the convention, but because there was a good group of us, we just had fun wandering around Baltimore, sitting in the bookshop cafe, just enjoying our own little event because we had a good group of people. But yeah.
Or like these live events, this one's from last year and years before, like meeting up with the same people, having that sit down time between panels. That's what it's all about. It's having time together with friends and new friends.
Absolutely. I think that covers that lot. And obviously there's going to be questions at the end, so there's a couple more slides, but there's anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in. I think if we're happy to have the questions thread open. I'm not sure if it is yet, but we can have a look once anyone's got any. So yeah, the aftermath of the con though. Once you've been to the con, after the closing ceremonies, can you mute and get some feedback off you? Yeah, no worries. After the con. So yeah, you've had the closing ceremonies. I possibly think this is slightly out of order. Maybe the post-con event usually happens first, I think, unless you do your swag count before dinner. Try and make sure you get some dinner. But after the closing ceremonies, there's often post-con meetups, same way there are pre-con meetups. So talk to people throughout the con, have a look at social media, that sort of thing. You'll usually find some people hanging around, being social, playing board games, Cards Against Humanity, things like that. And it's a really nice way to just sort of drag out that fun, all that crazy con energy to as much as possible, and get the last little bits out of it. I would advise, if possible, don't leave the convention on the Sunday night if it's a 2-day con. It's best to stay over the night of the end of the con, because I've driven. It was I think it was Buck 14 as well. I had mixed up which way round Manchester and Birmingham were, because I don't go north very often. And it was 3-hour drive back from Manchester to Bristol, and doing that after a 2-day con on the Sunday night. I've never been more dangerous on the road. Don't do that. Get an opportunity to get some sleep after all the fun. But the swag count is also brilliant, because once you get back from the con, you've got your bags full of all the fun stuff that you've bought. It's a time-honored ritual. Lay it all out on the bed, take a photo, put it on social media, upload it to your pony groups, and just go, this is the swag. Also, when you get down to the point about the financial fallout, where you're wondering where your money's gone, it's good evidence for that. But also to remind you that, yes, that's where your money's gone, but that's all the cool stuff that you've had and the memories that you've made. And it's not necessarily just stuff you bought. You can also put, little artists often have business cards that have really nice art on. or just little receipts and tokens from things you've done that are just memory, physical elements of memories. But yeah, so then, you want to try and make sure you get enough sleep as well as the post-con events. So try, keep an eye on when you're going home. If it's possible to take the whole of the next day off work or whatever, so that you have time to leave sort of in early afternoon rather than morning, that's good. But often you'll have to leave first thing, so you need to make sure you can get up, because you definitely don't want to miss your travel back. All the traveling advice is the same as when you're traveling there, except you're going to be a lot more tired, so you have to be a lot more patient with yourself. But then,
about it's the post-con meets. We have we go to the meet after the event to socialise and have the last social celebration of the event.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing. It's so worth doing that. Just to everybody's there, everybody's tired, but still just riding on that buzz. But yeah, and then you're on your way home. If you get to the point where you're just flagging, energy's gone, just try and think of your target, think of your nice warm bed, and kind of aim for that, just to keep pulling yourself forward. Once you're back, you've had a bit of a sleep. There's a few things to be aware of. Con crud, it's almost inevitable. Which obviously at the moment is one of the big reasons why we don't have conventions, because a group, big room full of people from all over the country, all over the world. There's germs you haven't had yet. You have them now. You will often get ill after a convention. Not necessarily that seriously, but it is part of it. So you need to be prepared to look after yourself and kind of work around that. You got your post-con blues because you've just had the best time of your life, and you're back at work, and work sucks. But there's nothing to be done about that, other than try not to think of it as work sucks. And I wish I could be at a con. It's like, focus on just remembering the fun that you've had, and that's why you're at work, is to pay for the next con. And yeah, financial fallout. If you're anything like me, you'll have spent too much money, and you're going to have to live on beans for the next few weeks. Look at your swag count. At least, again, appreciate the good things that you've bought with it. Positive attitude as far as possible. It's even if you feel like you're just faking the positive attitude, keep faking it. It's keep faking it until you can believe yourself. But it is so much fun, and it is so many good memories that it's worth focusing on that. And focus on your new friends. You've been to this con, you've met new people. Hopefully, if try and chat to them on Facebook. If it's people you've traveled with, you've been living with for the last 3 or 4 days, maybe give it a day or so before you talk to them again, so that they can forgive you for snoring. I'm sure I don't snore, do I?
No, you don't.
Really? I don't believe you.
I'm trying.
He's a good friend. He lies. But yes, it can. I think make sure everyone gets back okay, but then give them a little bit of breathing space before then getting back on and just pestering about. Oh, wasn't it great? And your new friends, talk to people that you've met. Just even if it's just a quick, hey, did you get back okay? Wasn't that fun? You can make great new connections. And yeah, then start planning the next con. Because conventions are just so much fun, and I'm pretty sure I'm addicted. But yes, so I think that covers it. Yeah, we'll do. Do we have any questions? I'm going to open up Discord because I haven't been looking. Oh yes, we do. How do you survive attending PonyCons on back-to-back weekends in different continents? You know me too well. Yeah, that was interesting. That was. I'm wondering if it was on any of my anecdotes on the side there. I have a couple of pages of them, but we went to, I think there's only 3 pages, maybe not, but yeah, went to GalaCon, followed immediately by BronyCon last year, which was quite the undertaking. There was a lot of planning involved in making sure that you get flights and that connect at the right times. Ended up flying from Heathrow to to Stuttgart for GalaCon, then Stuttgart back to Heathrow, met up with Sky there, stayed at a hotel in Heathrow overnight, and flew on to Baltimore after that. So yeah, there's you've got to sort of be able. It's definitely worth having a detailed plan of your flights and how you're going to work that. Yeah, I think it is difficult. It is tiring. You need to be kind of prepared beforehand. Pack extra carefully. Make sure you've got decent travel bags, all your travel documents. I think I forget whether I packed enough to last for both conventions, or if I actually stopped and did some washing. No, I stopped and did some washing. I actually used a laundrette in Ludwigsburg, where GalaCon is. So yeah, it's planning is the biggest key to being able to do something like that, because it is a big involved process and things do go wrong, and that's where I missed the connecting flight. And it's very much a case of I was absolutely fuming at myself, because I know better than that. And I had literally said to the other guys we were traveling with, "Oh, it should be fine. We'll have time to get to the gate." Airport gates take a long time to get to. So yeah, always add about at least 10 minutes to what you think it'll take. Even if you think you can move faster than the estimated times at the airport, you can't move that fast.
And always give about 2 to 3 hours before time. So a question here about getting to the airport and preparing for.
Yes, very much that. That's a standard procedure for airports to get there a couple of hours early, but you want to plan for that 2 hours early to be the latest you're going to arrive, because if you have the extra time, then if things go wrong, you're much more easily able to work around it. You can.
If things go right, you can enjoy the shops, look at the stuff, get a bottle of a soft drink and a newspaper.
Or not soft drink. Actually, that's a useful airport trick, though, isn't it? Is that they do allow a duty-free bag in excess, on top of whatever else you've got. Your luggage allowance is usually, you've got one in the hold if you've paid for it, one in the cabin with you, which tends to be now you've got a bag in the cabin plus a sort of handbag size thing. But then you can also take a duty-free bag through. So if you sort of get something at duty-free, excuse me, then you can stick a plushie in the bag, and sort of sometimes that helps you make better use of your luggage allowance. So
buy Toblerone, get a free bag, carry more stuff.
Yes, Toblerone. Toblerone gives you much more carrying space than just a Toblerone. So how do I look at memes? That's not really relevant to this one. To Convention Survival Guide. Yes, that's not really something that applies to Convention Survival memes, although Sky is quite a fan.
Or a tip, when you book a hotel, make sure it's near the convention hall.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Which, hold on, did I put that one?
Yes.
I'm trying to see Cards Against Humanity, free refills. Oh, I put a different one there. I can't remember. But yes, there was a hotel when we were at Hearthwarming, and I didn't plan that too well. It didn't look like it was that far away, but it was quite far away. It involved sort of getting up a little early in the morning, crossing a frozen Netherlands, a sort of frozen field in Holland, going under a motorway across a frozen field to get to the town, and then getting a bus into the centre of town to where the convention centre was. Actually, it was a school, that one, but oh, excuse
Also,
me.
another thing is, if you've got the Triple X Club on on your passport, not for your fault because someone did something stupid in your family, get prepared for that. Because you will have to spend 10-20 minutes extra because you know you're going to go through a process of extra checks.
And to be fair, that one also applies for things if you've got like medication to bring with you and that stuff. Make sure you've kind of looked into it in advance, what rules there are, and yeah. Oh no! Oh, another question though. What advice do you have for sightseeing on days around the event? Best before or afterwards? Before, I would say, in my experience, it's best to do the sightseeing beforehand if you can. I would say ultimately, do the sightseeing. If you can't do it before, do it afterwards. But I found that the convention itself forms a really nice sort of end point to the trip. So you go to a place, you do some sightseeing, you see the place, but then you know that you've got a cut-off point, which is going to be usually the evening before the con, because you want to go and find a pre-con meet because they're just so much fun. Although they're a little harder to find when you're abroad, so sometimes you have to just create your own. I actually made a group for Baltimore 19 because when we went in 17, we couldn't find anybody to hang out with. So I was like, right, I will make the group.
And always, before you go, pre-check events for it's pre-booking or it's closed dates. Like in Germany, we went to the Mercedes Museum and it was closed on Monday. And we went there on a Monday and realised it was closed.
Yes, that's always worth it. Yeah, and it's planning point again. Just have a look. Make sure if you want to go and see stuff, make sure you know what you're looking at. Yeah, I mean, essentially, a good start is just Google, top 10 things to do in wherever you're going.
And travel passes in Lunenburg,
Yes.
we had a travel pass. What was trains plus activities, and that saved a lot of money, and we got to see a lot of things. And most places have these cards where you can get discounts on going or free to go to certain places.
Yes, yeah, especially European places are very good for that. If they've got sort of good public transport. I believe there's one of my anecdote pages has something about the comparative musings on public transport in various. Oh yeah, no, that's the Naked Gems Bar one. Yeah, musings on public transport and culture. Well, the public transport issue. America is designed for private transport, so you've got to be aware of that. It is possible to get public transport around, but it's a lot more difficult. In Europe, you can get things like those passes, which are just like, here you go, travel on anything. Just wave your card. It's basically an Oyster card, but with possibly a few better connections than an Oyster. Actually, Oyster's pretty good. But it also can give you discounts on places to go and see. And if you're there for a few days of sightseeing, it's a perfect way just to do it easily. If there is a con, what you'd love to see different or new compared to? Ooh, interesting. Yeah. What do I like to see at cons that are new and different compared to what we've been to? I mean, events. It's always interesting having a look at the sort of events they do. That's obviously dependent on who applies to do events. But I have to say the Britannia Buddies stuff that they do with UK PonyCon is really nice, and actually the earlier gen stuff is interesting to see.
Or any event where I can educate you or entertain you at the same time, so you can learn some stitching, how you could draw, or some form of like you can come back. You want to go back home and try it yourself.
Yes, interactive, creative panels are really nice. Like they often do ones where you make a little plushie, and I've never finished one of those because I'm really slow at stitching, and I've still got a couple lying around somewhere. But it's a really nice one to do. And then I think I put on the Thank You Friendship is Magic panel, I've got a little custom pony that has sort of wire cleaner hair, and just something that you end up with, something you've made, no matter how ridiculous it is. And that was literally just like glued pipe cleaner. I sort of painted it orange and glued pipe cleaners to its hair. And it looks really rubbish, but it looks so cute at the same time. And it's over there, hence why I'm looking. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that. A good music thing is also really nice. I don't know. There's so much variation. The trick is just to go to so many cons that you sort of do all of these bits at some point, and then have no money.
About suitcases, about when we come back, how have we dealt with our suitcase problems when we get too much stuff?
Yes, that's interesting. Leave space when you go, when packing a suit. So yeah, question is packing suitcases for a con. Leave space when you go. So pack as much as you need. Try not to overpack too much, although don't end up leaving yourself without stuff. If somebody says they don't need a hold bag, possibly take one anyway. And yeah, share out the space between you. Also, there's a lot to be said for what you put in your hand luggage versus what you put in your hold luggage, because your hold luggage, the one that goes under the plane, they sometimes weigh your hand luggage, but not as often. So if unpleasant though it can be, you only really have to carry it through security and to the gate, then you can put it down on the plane. So if you've got something really heavy, like Cards Against Humanity, I brought my entire Cards Against Humanity set to Baltimore, but I put it in my hand luggage because they don't weigh it, or they don't weigh it as often. Or if they do, I think, it's unlucky, but
you get your first duty-free bag. You need to overfill it.
Yes, yeah, and that was sort of mentioned earlier, but it is a very useful, it is a very important thing. You can get a lot out of that. Don't pack anything that might get you pulled over by anyone, but that's fairly obvious. And making sure your hand luggage has entertainment in it, has your Nintendo Switch or your phone battery pack so that you can recharge your phone on the plane if it doesn't have that. I would say, actually, I've picked up some things with suitcases, like it's useful having a hard case one, which I don't have, with the 4 wheels on the bottom rather than the 2, which I don't have. I need a new bag, but this is since 2019, and having to lug bags around when we did miss the connecting flight. There are a lot of advantages. If you have a hard case bag, it keeps things better protected, and stuff like that. Yeah, all sorts. I think that's most of the packing tips, really. Other than, like, you can rolling stuff up tends to pack it in tighter, but doesn't leave it as nicely folded. So, but if you're leaving some space on the way out to the country, you can fold it, and then when on the way back, just roll it up so that it takes up less space.
And prepare for delays. Be ready that they could happen at any time, any part of the journey. Prepare for that.
Yeah, and so packing, it's also useful to have something in your hand luggage to kind of keep you busy at that point. Oh, driving to another question. If you're driving to from a con, look around at nearby car parks on Google Maps. Know where the nearest ones are. Yes, that is true. Yeah. I mean, part of the thing that I sort of briefly skipped over, I think, earlier on about traveling is transfers, and that applies to things like car parks as well. Because even if you're just driving within a country to a hotel, does that hotel have a car park? Do you need to find a car park somewhere else? And are you going to need to then walk a long distance from one to the other? Or if you're staying at a friend's house or an Airbnb that doesn't have anything nearby, although I've never really used Airbnb, I probably should. But yeah, transfers are important, and that, whether that's to and from the hotel, to from the hotel to the convention center, that's also a big difference. Like the closer you can get, the better, as mentioned. It was a lovely frozen field. It was an interesting walk on a cold February, luckily not rainy, but it's better to be closer. And transfers to and from home to airports, home to train stations, things like that. It's always worth looking at how you're going to do the little trips between places. Okay. Backpack bags and suitcases. I haven't used them myself. But they certainly could be useful if you have the means to vacuum them. But I am being told it's time to wrap up. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening in. And it's been fun. I think we're probably going to get kicked off soon. So farewell.
Bye.